Well, this weekend, our church turns 10 years old yesterday. And that doesn't sound like very long, but y'all aren't the pastors. It doesn't sound like very long, but it is a long time. 10 years is a long time, and when you look at what God has done, we just feel very grateful that the church is here. Over 94% of church plants close in the first 12 months. Within 5 years, another 4 or 5% close. So there's about 2 to 3% of churches that are ever started actually make it. And if you make it past 5 years, you're usually good. If you make it past 10, you're real good. So somebody say, we're real good. We're real good. God's up to something here, and it's weird looking at how the church is 10 years old, because now as I stand here 40 years old, and look back at 29-year-old Landon and Kelly at the Church Civic Center hosting launch team meetings, I'm filled with gratitude, probably unlike I've ever felt. Like when we see our kids born and then they're healthy and they're growing, and there's a gratitude there that obviously is a huge part of topping the list. But when you look at what God's done in 10 years of this church, it fills Kelly and I with a gratitude unlike we've ever experienced. In fact, I think those first two songs that the team chose for today are so appropriate for a day like today, because we can really look back at January 11th, 2015, when it's 25 degrees outside with ice and sleet on the roads, when 323 people came to church that morning and 33 people got saved for the first time on day one. We can look, come on, you better clap louder than that. I know you're fasting and you don't have caffeine in you, but you got to trick your brain a little bit. What we see God doing is beautiful, and songs like You Are Good and All My Life You've Been Faithful. What God's seen our church through, He's seen us through 6 different venue changes in 10 years, none of which were our choice, except getting into this school. That was the only one that was our choice. 3 of those happened in rapid succession during COVID. Venues were open, closing. But we look at what God's done there. We look at how He got us through that when 25,000 churches in the United States did not make it through COVID. We didn't have to fire anybody. We didn't have to lay anybody off. We were able to pivot, and it's because of God's blessing and your obedience to the Lord, we were able to do that. And I look at the songs like All My Life You've Been Faithful, All My Life You've Been So, So Good. It's amazing to see what God has done. Kelly and I moved to San Antonio in 2007, and that was a really long time ago. It feels like a really long time ago. We were youth pastors for a long time, and just seeing what God is doing in our family's life, and we know that a lot of you in this room say the same. What God is doing in your family, and think about what God is going to do. Does that excite anybody? Just think about what God's gonna do. We've walked through what our church has walked through, what our church has stood through, what our church has fought for, what our church has believed for, what our family has walked through, what our family stood through, what our families fought for and believed for. And to all of the people who have loyally walked alongside us and stood with us and stood for us and passionately believed in this vision alongside of us, thank you, thank you, thank you. God has truly built a beautiful, growing, vibrant, authentic, spiritual body of disciples, and our family is so grateful to be a part of it. So happy birthday, TPC. Happy birthday to you and to this church.